Everybody's Tyler here at Vex Worlds and having a double feature with a couple co-developed robots on here. We have 81988E Extra V and 8825S Wings of Freedom. So in this interview, it's going to be a little bit different. We're going to be going through each one of these robots, each feature at a time, talking about some of the differences, showcasing how they work as well too, and talking about some of the great success they've been having here. So let's learn more about them coming up here on Pits and Parts. This video on fun is brought to you by viewers like you and also in partnership with the following. The Robotics Education and Competition Foundation provides fantastic programs for students from elementary school all the way through college. These include VEX, aerial drone competition, online challenges, JROTC, throw-powered, scholarships, certifications, and so much more. To discover these exciting opportunities, visit recf.org and get connected. All right, as we go into these robots here, we got a lot of students who are going to be talking here, so if you want to introduce yourself, and we're going to be going through the drive bases first, so talk to me more about that.
Yeah, and hi, I'm Thomas from 8825S. I'm the strategist and the co-builder for the robot. And for our robot, we have a 343 RPM on 4-inch Omni wheels, and we switched from 300 RPM Omnis also on 4-inch Omnis before Worlds. Before Worlds we have 300 RPM, and in Worlds we switched to 343 RPM because we believe that in Worlds all of the robot is getting faster and faster and faster. So that's why we switched to the new drivetrain, and so the gear ratio is 84 to 48, 48, 48, and 84. And something worth mentioning is our middle wheel. Instead of Omni wheels or flex wheel or anything, here you can see them here. We just wrap a small layer of flex wheel outside a 482 gear, and this is a lot smaller than a normal 2.75-inch wheel. So this makes our barrier crossing much more smoother than most other teams here. Yeah. So for our wings, we have two configurations for our wing plate. So for this one is what we use in our alliance matches. So they have a little slope here, so we could push balls over the barrier easier. And for this one, this one on Extra B, those we use for skills because they have these plates that were concave backwards, so that they could prevent the balls from landing on the net when we are pushing them into the goal. Yeah. And for our back wings, there's these hooks on Extra B. They really help us in head-to-head matches because they could hook out balls from the match flow zone, and they were just all extra scores for us. And these plates, they were designed so that they could protect the pistons a bit, so that it won't really bend that often, because pistons are still pretty expensive for us.
Right, so my name is Peter Wong. I'm actually the captain of XGP last year, but I'm here to join my gang and having fun at Worlds and also doing this excellent interview. And I'm going to be in charge of talking about our intake. So for intake, we have a 600 RPM direct gear ratio here, 1:1:1, and we're running them on 2-inch wheels. An interesting feature of our intake is that we actually cut these ledges of the flex wheels. We call those the Mercedes-Benz flex wheels because they have 3 ledges. And these are actually for the fact that we can intake tri-balls from the top more easily, and they have easier room for giveaway so that the tri-balls can go deeper. And speaking of which, we'll talk about our interesting design of the trapdoor. As you can see here, the bottom, there is a flip mechanism, and these are the limits. So as you can see, it only goes up to 90 degrees and no more further. And when we let it down, we can intake a tri-ball from the top during an alliance match, just like that. And then you see these flex wheels really give away for the tri-ball. This allows us to have faster cycle speed during bowling because it's easier for the match loader to load from on top. It's easier to position. And also during regular pushing, our trapdoor also acts as a really rigid wall so that we can really have solid pushes into the goal, especially during skills matches where we need to push 5-10 tri-balls at once. Another interesting aspect is we have this distance sensor right on top of our intake. This is actually used for our autonomous wind point. So when we actually touch the horizontal hang bar with these 2 little zip ties, we make sure that the robot stops until the distance sensor reads the horizontal bar. So that gives us higher consistency in making sure we get that WP.
That's a really easy solution, by the way, that I don't think I've seen many teams do. So
yeah.
That's really cool that you guys said. When did you add this onto your robot?
I think pretty late into the season. We actually weren't thinking of this solution until one of our teams in the same alliance mentioned this simple solution, and we were just like you. We were shocked at how simple that solution actually is, and also how well this actually just worked. So,
was there anything from depending on the stadium or the venue lighting here or anything like that might have missed? Because when you have a sensor that's going up, you worry about different lighting conditions, that sort of thing. Was there any issues with that?
Not so far, because in our understanding, the distance sensor works with infrared, and
Gotcha.
unlike the vision sensor, it does not get disturbed that much by ambient lighting. And so far, it has been working great for us. So, yeah. I think that's it about the NSAIC. So.
All right. Hi, this is the builder from 8825S. My name is Yixun Jiang, and I'm going to talk about the hang mechanism on this robot. Pretty late into the season, the game manual was updated to remove the yellow hang cap from VRC games, and this made it possible for us to hook onto the top of the elevation bars. I'm going to extend the hang mechanism on this robot right here, and I'll show you first the claw that we made for the hang mechanism. As you can see here, the claw itself is just a simple standoff mounted to this piece of C-channel right here. However, what really is innovative about this robot is the line-up mechanism right here. It consists of just a piece of polycarbonate. And by the way, this is laser cut, so it's pretty precise and reproducible. Should we need spare parts? The most interesting thing here is that this piece of polycarbonate here is actually at an angle with the plane that these C-channels make, which I don't think I have seen any other team do so far this season. And this gives us the best room for error when we are aligning for the top of the elevation bar. So even if the elevation bar were to be here or here, it would still slide in, since this is a really, really smooth curve.
Yeah, a lot of tolerance on that, right? Which is great.
A lot of tolerance on that.
For your team here, looking at a match for either one of these, how many seconds would you say you need in order to achieve that hang? What's a realistic number?
Once we get hooked on, we take around roughly 3 seconds. And in order to actually get this thing hooked, whenever our driver is up to the task, he does it in about 3 seconds.
Wow.
And but we take around 10 to be safe.
I mean, either way, 10 seconds to get that, I think, is definitely above par what we've seen on many teams for something like that. Giving you a little bit extra time to bowl a couple more times really makes a big difference, right?
Yeah. And another couple of things about the hang. Please, would you mind putting it down? Here, the locking mechanism for the hang is also really what sets us apart from other string hangs. As you can see, when the hang would not come out even if I push it with my hands. That is because this locking mechanism right here prevents it from going up. And whenever we need to extend the hang, these two pistons here push on the two bars, which make these rubber bands become detached from the vertical the braces, like this. And these locks kind of go outwards and allows the lift to go up. And whenever this thing is in a down position, it would not budge. We've seen a lot of teams that have hangs that are really easily affected by other teams, especially when they're bumping into each other, and it might flip out prematurely and affect their normal functioning. They might, for example, they might not be able to cross under that horizontal hang bar for that bowling of triballs. but we wouldn't have that issue since we have this really great locking mechanism.
I love that you took that thought process to have on that. Obviously been working great for both teams so far as well too. So I really appreciate that explanation and things that teams you really have to think about, right? Like a lot of teams just don't stop and think like, hey, what are some easy solutions? Your teams come up with easy ones, and easy solutions make good robots as well too. So that's great. What do we want to talk about next?
Actually, I also want to talk about the PTO for the hang. They're hidden behind these polycarbonate plates that also act as supports for the wing. Here is a 36 tooth cut machined down to about 6 millimeters, and what the reason we use these instead of actual thin gears is that it slides very nicely on high strength axles. And this single piston right here, connected to standoffs on both sides, is able to move this gear in and out. Whenever this thing is connected to with the drivetrain, please, would you activate the PTO? Yeah. We also have in programming that the PTO wouldn't move unless the hang is activated. So our driver is going to extend the hang again and activate PTO. It slides right on. It slides on really easily. And once the PTO is on, the whole thing is connected to these two ratchets on both sides. It's symmetrical on the other side. And it just prevents the lift from falling down, prevents the robot from falling down once it achieves that H tier or whatever tier that we have time to reach.
And are all your motors diverting over to that, or all your drive motors diverting over to that, or just a few of them?
All the drive motors are. So it's basically a 6-motor hang, and this winch here is running at 800 RPM. 800 RPM.
Great. Let's talk about your punching mechanism that you have as well too. I love to also hear in regards to match strategy, like obviously puncher is great for skills, right? Is there any viability, do you think, in regards to using that for matches still?
So with punchers, this is actually a really interesting thing with strategies, but back in China, we actually see more teams using punchers mid-match, even towards the end of the season.
Sure.
We've been following the trend on YouTube as well. We've been noticing that less and less teams are starting to use punchers, but we do think that they have potential in alliance matches to really pull out a point advantage when it's just, bowling back and forth. Every team is on like an equal pace. So if you can get 2 or 3 shots when the opponent is still bowling at the original rhythm, right? Breaking the rhythm sometimes helps our strategy and also sometimes would give us a big advantage. And also, as you just mentioned, this is a really good mechanism for skills. We have these flex wheels to absorb the impact of the triball, so we make sure we maximize the amount of energy that's being transferred from the momentum of these rubber bands to the triball. We also have this little damping mechanism. This is actually one of the rubber treads we took off of the Omni wheels. The old ones, yeah. It's pretty much destroyed right now, but it's been working good for us. This offers a lot of damping so that the amount of vibrations that this mechanism generates is reduced to a minimum. We've had a lot of problems with this mechanism generating issues for the gyroscope because it's vibrating so much. So this really effectively reduced that issue. We also have this custom-made polycarbonate tray here to support the triball. And then these 2 foam blocks right here help our match loaders position the triball. You can see here that the triball is nice and secured in place. It doesn't shake. And also, when the match loaders put it onto this mechanism, it's not easy for the triball to bounce off due to the force of them putting it on the robot because we have these foam pieces here.
And I'd also like to hear after this too, is there anything in regards to co-developing the robots that you want to mention? Like taking the process of having you guys, both teams develop this together. I'd love to hear more about that too.
Oh, yeah, for sure. You should
Yeah,
really like
sure.
to talk about that.
Of course. First, I want to talk about the reason that we chose to work on the same solution, because we know that to me it would have been more fun to come up with different solutions, but the both of our teams only received our qualification in late February, so we were really pressed for time to prepare for Worlds. And there was also school and examinations to deal with for both for all of our programmers, builders. So in the end, when we had like an emergency get together, and we were like, no, we will not have time to build 2 different robots. Let's just work on the same thing, and we can go in sort of like a spiral in our developing. And we could test one thing out on one robot, and if it does work, we could implement it on the other robot, and know for sure that it would also work. And if the testing does not go right, we could also just have the other robot test different solutions, and that really helped us save time. We really don't know where our preparations could have gone if we chose to go with 2 different solutions.
I can't even imagine trying to not only get robots going, but even all the logistics of trying to travel over as well too in less than 2 months to get all that going as well. So I'm so happy that your teams have been able to make it, and obviously having a lot of great success. Extra B, as we're filming this right now, #1 seed in the division at the end of the day. So really cool with that. We got to talk about some coding on these robots as well too. So walk me through more about how you're approaching your code. Anything detailed you want to talk about?
Yeah, sure. My name is Renjie Chen, and you can just call me Jeff. I am the major programmer for 8825S, and I'm also the developer for the algorithm that we use throughout the semester. Throughout the season, sorry. We majorly used a pure pursuit control for following Bezier curves, and I'm not going to go into super detail about both of these. Basically, Bezier curves are just like cubic curves that are controlled by 4 control points, and the thing that I really want to demonstrate today is how we're able to visualize these curves and make our programming more easy. I'm just going to compile this Python script over here, and as you can see, it will demonstrate all the Bezier curves we're going to follow throughout our skills routine. We only, I forgot to talk about this. We use the odometry systems for our skills matches. We didn't use them for alliance matches because they're too fragile and we don't really want to break them. And as you can see, they're really cute here. And it allows us to track the position of the robots throughout the field, and it allowed us to do this. We can basically force the robot to travel through a curve as we have predetermined it. And with this visualization here, we can basically just move the points around like that. So we're not just dealing with abstract numbers or figures or anything like this. We can just, for example, when the robot goes too far to the right, we can just move it to the left, and we can just save it into our code. And in our code, it will treat this curve differently, and it will write this coordinate into the final control point of this curve. And it really speed up the tuning of our entire skills routine. And it does have one problem though. As you can see, we don't have a really large screen over here, so just by moving it a little bit, there's a great change. For example, just moving it a little bit will change it from 124 to 128, which is a huge change, and we don't want that. So further into the future, perhaps I want to develop a zoom in feature, which just allows us to zoom in, for example, into this one specific tile, and allows us for more specific tuning. Yeah, and that's basically it.
I ask you, how do you do your initial localization on the field, like when you set up?
Oh, well, basically we just set it up from a orientation for the 0 degree of our initial motion sensor, and then we'll move the robot to a given position. I think it is around here, and we'll set the position of our odometry to a given coordinate preset, and then it will know where exactly it is. There is certain minor errors when you are placing the robot to a specific position, but we think that is tolerable for the overall, for the general thing, and it has worked perfectly since then.
Well, and I think with skills too, a big thing is you're not going over the middle barrier in these routines, right? So you don't have to worry about drift or anything like that nearly as much using odometry pods. You mentioned not using the matches. That makes a lot of sense to me to not go that route too. So, hey, Wings of Freedom, Extra B, thank you so much for detailing these incredible robots. We wish you both best of luck here at Vex Worlds as well, but it's a lot of great things that teams can learn from this. So good luck the rest of the way. Can't wait to see how you all do. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
This video on fun is brought to you by viewers like you and also in partnership with the following. The Robotics Education and Competition Foundation provides fantastic programs for students from elementary school all the way through college. These include VEX, aerial drone competition, online challenges, JROTC, girl-powered, scholarships, certifications, and so much more. To discover these exciting opportunities, visit recf.org and get connected. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell to stay up to date on our new videos. Keep the conversation going and provide your input to our content. Most live shows can be found on the First Updates Now YouTube channel, live competitions at twitch.tv/firstupdatesnow, and join our Discord at discord.gg/firstupdatesnow. Check our other social offerings on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.